£2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Today we have a special treat for you all because we're talking about John Stapleton.
Yes.
And he's reunited with his boxing partner on Breakfast Television.
Screen wife.
For the first time in 17 years.
Well, we were 17 years together.
We were.
And then I don't know how long that we haven't actually presented it. When did the wheels come off?
Nearly 10 years ago.
10 years ago. 10 years ago that the wheels came off and we went our separate ways, like sort of squeaky supermarket trolleys.
Well, stayed in touch.
Oh, yes, of course. We carried on with our very sober lunches.
Indeed.
Well, my friend, absolutely great to see you.
And you,
shake your
fella.
hand. And what's wrong with you?
I've got a thing called Parkinson's disease, which is what they call a progressive illness, which is a polite way of saying it'll only get worse. But thinking positive about it, lots of people live a near normal life with Parkinson's, so I'm aiming to do the same. I'm taking the tablets, I'm doing the exercises my expert tells me I should do. I'm speaking as well as I can because I need a speech therapist to talk more slowly and more clearly. I also have difficulty swallowing, and the latest thing is I've had difficulty with my balance, hence this stick I've got by my side all the time now. So, but, you know, I'm learning to live with it, doing my best to overcome it.
John, what is it? What is Parkinson's? Those are the effects it's having on you, but where's the problem? Why does it come about?
It's a neurological disorder, which means your body doesn't coordinate as it used to do. It's the fastest growing neurological complaint in the world, believe it or not. We don't quite know why, possibly because more of us are living longer. But, you know, as I say, you can live a near normal life with it, and so if you behave yourself, which I'm attempting to do.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 6th of September, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
The Minister was already planning a reshuffle. I'll be honest, he wanted to do it on a slightly slower time frame. When it became clear that Angela was going to leave government, the Prime Minister took decisive action and decided to bring that reshuffle forward and just get the job done on Friday.
As the country wakes up to a new Labour front bench, the new Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, spoke to GB News earlier.
And with more shuffling expected today following Angela Rayner's dramatic resignation, the focus now turns to those in new posts. What will Shabana Mahmood's policy be to stop the small boats with new crossings this morning? And how do the changes impact Sir Keir Starmer's grip on power? We'll be speaking to our political editor, Christopher Hope, shortly.
Smart, we can be nimble, we can move. So we adjusted the programme, moved Nigel forward, and once again we stole a march on the lumbering dinosaurs of the deep socialist Labour government.
And it's the second day of the Reform UK conference in Birmingham today as Richard Tice reflects on yesterday's busy first day. Our deputy political editor Tom Harwood is out and about at conference.
That's right, the Reform Conference rather overshadowed by that reshuffle in number 10 yesterday. Today, is it the chance of this party to get back on track and dominate once again the news agenda?
And elsewhere, the Duchess of Kent, who became the oldest living member of the royal family following Queen Elizabeth II's death, has passed away at the age of 92. We'll be paying a special and personal tribute with the Duchess's former personal secretary later this hour.
And a British couple who are among those killed in the Lisbon funicular crash have been named. We'll get the latest on the tragedy.
And dozens of firefighters are currently battling a blaze at the old BBC television centre in London's White City. Around 100 firefighters and 15 engines have been called to the 9-storey building. We'll keep an eye on developments.
The biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next 2 hours. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters. Your weekend starts here. Wow, Olivia, so much to react to after the reshuffle yesterday. Continuing this morning, more junior ministers expected to move around, but all focus will be on Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, with that news that we're breaking this morning, about 500 crossings in small boats today.
Well, absolutely, and Shabana Mahmood is thought to be to the right of Yvette Cooper. Keir Starmer has got her in because she's going to apparently get a grip on this small boats crisis, but it's going to be a very, very busy first day in office for her with these hundreds of new crossings. Can anyone at this point manage to take control of this situation?
Yeah, rumoured to be expected to take a harder line, a harder stance on these crossings. I have to say, anything would probably be a bit better than record crossings after 7 years of this crisis. So what can Shabana Mahmood do? What would you like to see her do in that role to stop those crossings? Plenty more to get into today. Get in touch on gbnews.com/your say. But before we do anything else, let's go to Bethany Elsey, all the latest news headlines.
Thank you both. Good morning. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer has conducted a major cabinet reshuffle in an effort to restore order after Angela Rayner resigned as Deputy Prime Minister over her tax affairs. David Lammy is her replacement, and he's also been appointed as Justice Secretary. A dozen other ministers have been moved around, including Shabana Mahmood being promoted to Home Secretary, and Yvette Cooper leaves the job of Home Secretary to join the Foreign Office. Further changes will be made to the government today with a shake-up of junior ministers. Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, told GB News this was all part of the plan.
The Prime Minister was already planning a reshuffle. I'll be honest, he wanted to do it on a slightly slower time frame. When it became clear that Angela was going to leave government, the Prime Minister took decisive action and decided to bring that reshuffle forward and just get the job done on Friday.
It's the second and final day of Reform UK's party conference today. Yesterday, party leader Nigel Farage accused the government of being deep in crisis and told supporters to prepare for an early election in 2 years. He's due to speak later today at the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham following an address by his deputy, Richard Tice. 2 of the 3 British people killed in the Lisbon funicular crash have been named. A couple, 36-year-old Kaylee Smith and 44-year-old William Nelson, were among the 14 other people who died on Wednesday. The other British victim, a man in his 80s, has not yet been identified. More than 20 people were injured, 5 of them in a critical condition, when the popular tourist attraction derailed and crashed into a building. Around 100 firefighters are tackling a blaze at the BBC's former headquarters in West London. 15 fire engines have also been called to the 9-storey building on Wood Lane in White City. Authorities say the fire is currently affecting the top floors of the building, including a restaurant, and that an unknown number of flats have potentially been impacted. Nearby buildings have been evacuated as a precaution. Wood Lane is currently closed to traffic and people are advised to avoid the area. And a surfer has died after being attacked by a shark in a gruesome attack off the coast of Sydney's popular northern beaches. A 57-year-old man suffered critical injuries, including losing a number of limbs after joining friends in the water off Long Reef Beach. It's the first deadly shark attack of its kind in the city for more than 3.5 years, prompting the closure of several beaches. Those are the latest headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Thank you, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and Olivia Utley. Olivia, this is going to be a busy couple of hours.
Oh, it's going to be a very, very busy show because, of course, the main players of the reshuffle are now all in place. But we are expecting to hear at some point, not today, but soon, who the new deputy leader of the Labour Party is going to be. And that is going to be big for Keir Starmer. Yeah. If it's someone who doesn't agree with his politics, and remember, the Prime Minister doesn't get to decide, we could be heading for a civil war in Labour and to Reform,
yes,
I guess.
Well, let's go to the Reform UK's party's conference in Birmingham, because Nigel Farage is trying to capitalise on what he called the big rift engulfing the Labour Party.
Yes, the Reform UK leader told his members his party must be ready for an early general election as he took the stage 3 hours earlier than planned following Angela Rayner's resignation.
Meanwhile, the party's newly announced head of policy, Zia Youssef, said British people's rights would reign supreme under a Reform government.
We'll be hearing from Runcorn MP Sarah Ponchin later in the show.
But before that, let's go live to the second day of the conference in Birmingham and speak to our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood. Tom, good to see you this morning. You said that the conference had been slightly overshadowed, of course, by that reshuffle yesterday. What will Reform UK be saying to take back control of momentum?
Yes, I think that they did as best as they could to sort of reassert themselves yesterday. Of course, Nigel Farage's speech was moved 3 hours earlier than scheduled in order to sort of take a march, steal a march on the reshuffle, which everyone could see was going to become the biggest news of the day. Probably a wise move from the Reform Party there to get that message out ahead of schedule before it would have been wiped off the news headlines. But today, more opportunities and rumours of a special unannounced guest to be taken to the stage. No doubt that will be a bit of a moment at this conference. I've heard some rumours as to who this mystery guest might be, and I'm fairly sure it will make some headlines when that does happen. So all eyes on the main stage there. I'm here on the floor of the conference, though, where delegates have just started to sort of filter through, and I thought I might give you a little bit of a flavour of what it's like to be here at Reform's largest ever party conference, a more professional party conference than we have seen for some time, or perhaps ever, from this party. But of course, one of the things that you can do at a party conference is head to the party shop. And on offer at the Reform Party shop, a beautiful turquoise mug. Indeed, the famous Reform UK Made in Britain shirts, all of which have Farage 10 on the back of them. But one of the interesting things about everything that's on sale here is some of them are slightly steep in price. You've got the Reform FC shirt selling for 40 quid, or you can get two for 75 quid if you like. You've got caps. I haven't seen any of these baseball-style caps. Perhaps I'll find one in a moment, but they're 15 quid. You can get a fancy water bottle, fairly sturdy thing, for £15, or some of these popular lapel badges as well. Lots of different party merch on offer here at the shop. It's one of the popular attractions. But of course, this conference is about more than raising an extra bob for the party. It's about professionalising the party's image and in the words of Nigel Farage, Zia Youssef, the people that have been speaking on the conference stage, preparing for government. Now, one of the big questions is, can the party do that in time for whenever the next election is? As some of them have been perhaps dubiously suggesting the election might be only in 2 years' time. I think that is a suggestion we should take with a pinch of salt.
So have we really had any more details? You talk about Reform being a party that's getting ready for government. We still seem to be hearing quite a lot about their plans to get rid of the two-child benefit, for example. I mean, where is the detail on this? And how is Reform going to be any different tax-wise to the Labour Party?
Yeah, we did hear some new policies from Nigel Farage in his main speech yesterday, that speech that was brought forward. We heard that the Reform Party is going to ban the Muslim Brotherhood, prescribe it as a terror group. We also heard that a new Department for Preparing for Government is to be set up within the party, and Zia Youssef is moving from his role as head of the Department for Government Efficiency, Doge team within Reform UK, to moving to head that Department for Preparing for Government. They really want to emphasise that they're going to have a full slate of policies, perhaps a costed slate of policies ahead of the next election, which of course they're suggesting could be sooner rather than later. But yes, I think one of the big criticisms that has always been levelled at Reform UK is that you do get the top line policy, and sometimes it's a bit more scant to find the detail. There tends to be three things that members of this party say they will do to find the money to fund whatever policy it is. Number one, scrap net zero. Number two, cut woke waste. And number three, scrap things like DEI. Now, I've heard those three elements of the costing plan time and time again. Generally, it doesn't seem to be the overarching costing solution that the party needs to find. They say they want to cut a lot of taxes. They say they want to spend a lot more, for example, on the prison estate. But given that they want to do all of those things, the money isn't quite there in some of the easy cuts that they might want to say out there in public. So one of the big issues for the party will be finding the ways to do spending reductions elections in a way that is commensurate with remaining a popular party.
All right, thank you, Tom Harwood, for that summary. We'll be back with you later on in the programme. And of course, GB News will be covering the other party conferences this year, so stay tuned for our coverage of the Tory and Labour conferences in September and October.
Well, joining us now is the former chair of the Labour Party, Baroness Hayter. Baroness Hayter, I mean, this is a big reshuffle, I suppose. There are 12 ministers who have changed their seats, but it's still the same old faces, isn't it? There's no new talent. What does this really mean for Keir Starmer and his agenda?
Well, I don't think the word old is quite right, actually. Particularly when you get to my age, they still look very young. And remember, you say they're old in the sense of they've been around. They've only been around for a year. And what's interesting, I think, with government is that really, well, there's many difficult tasks about being government, but one is that balance between domestic and foreign policy. And I think it's been a tough first year for a government where foreign policy, because of Ukraine, because of migration, has sort of really had to dominate a lot of the Prime Minister's time. And to some extent, I think the party has not driven the agenda as much as we have done on foreign affairs, particularly over Ukraine, and had to deal with America. And I think what really is happening now is the Prime Minister is having to say, OK, I now need to give as much attention to the things we promised at home, that's housing, education, health, police on the streets. And I've seen my team, I've seen which are the strongest, who's fitting in best. Let's put the right glove in the right hand. Sorry, wrong way around. Right hand in the right glove to play to the talents. So they're not people who've been around all that long. They have only been there a year. And I think he's now trying to put them in the right seats to deliver as much on domestic as we have on foreign policy.
We've just come to you via the Reform Conference, of course, so they'll be feeling a little bit overshadowed by the reshuffle yesterday, perhaps drowning out some of the announcements that they're making. We heard during Nigel Farage's speech that he said this isn't a one-man band and that those football shirts you're seeing being sold in the conference, they're not just saying Farage on them anymore. This reshuffle, primarily, Flavour, it's about taking on the Reform Party, isn't it? They've got to take the fight to that insurgent and now very popular force in British politics.
I think that's right. I mean, it's very interesting to look at reform. I'm an old political scientist, and I find it really interesting, these new parties. I'm old enough to remember, when in, I think it was 1989, the Greens were shot up to 15%, which at that time was big for a new party. We then had the SDP doing the same, I think, into the 35% in 1981, and then Change UK in 2009. It can happen with these parties, and the difficulty that Reform has got, much the same as those, it hasn't got a natural base either in trade unions or in business. And it would be really interesting to see whether it's not just about not being a one-man band, but whether it's going to be just one policy party, i.e. over migration, or whether it will have the depth of policy to continue and have a much broader appeal than maybe just either anti-EU or anti-migration has got now. So some interesting challenges for the party, the Reform Party, I think. But I'm not in any way setting aside what you're suggesting, that Labour has to listen to why so many people are, attracted by that party, who would normally come to Labour to make the world better, or their world better, if you like. And I think we do have to learn those lessons, and there's nothing wrong with an established party like ours doing that.
And I think an element of the attraction to Farage is about personality. You mentioned that he's sort of one-man band. But there's a very big contrast between Nigel Farage standing up and saying that he's going to send hundreds of thousands of migrants back. And on the other hand, Keir Starmer, he's now been forced into 2 major U-turns in his first year. He then backed Angela Rayner to the hilt on Wednesday, said that he was basically desperate to keep her. Has he been fundamentally weakened by the removal of his Deputy Prime Minister? And is he actually looking like quite a weak man now, especially in contrast to Farage?
I don't think he is. I think you're right that it's bad for the Labour party. We know we've lost a senior woman who's very popular in the party. She's very popular with the electorate. And I think that losing a deputy leader, I'm not going to underestimate that. And obviously, as a woman, I regret that, though I have to say, having a woman now in those top three positions other than Prime Minister, Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary and Chancellor of the Exchequer, is a very strong statement that we are still a very women-friendly party. And I think that's one of the things Reform is going to have to face up to. It still looks very male, albeit for a new edition yesterday or the day before. I've lost which day it is.
OK,
So,
Baroness Hayter, thank you very much for your time this morning. I'm sure we'll be speaking to you back on the programme soon. Olivia, I have to say, I'm not really sure I buy that. Having a few women in the great offices of state makes them a women-friendly party. I'm not sure the public really care either.
No, and I think that, there's bigger problems with losing Angela Rayner than just that she was a woman. She was a bridge between the left of the Labour Party and Keir Starmer. What is going to happen without her? She kept a very fragile peace.
Yeah, people are pushing this line, aren't they? Reform has a woman problem. Plenty of women-only panels at the conference yesterday.
Andrew Jenkins, Nadine Dorries, all making a real show. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, still to come here, we'll be speaking about the Duchess of Kent because she's died at the age of 92. We'll be reflecting on her life shortly with a very special personal tribute that you won't want to miss.
No, you won't want to miss, particularly a special tribute. The person who's coming on very special to me. But next, there are fresh concerns that a diversity drive in the military could reportedly sideline white candidates. We'll be discussing that and the rest of today's top stories and be going live to Downing Street next.
This is Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Why do you think that era of telly is so fondly remembered by viewers? Do you think it's just how warm and friendly?
Well, of course it was.
Came through.
Well, it was very
Well, I'll tell you why.
on.
There was more people. You had more to say. You could be more off script, the way we are in GB News. But today you just get people who are told because of wokeism, don't say this, don't do that, and do read the script and stick to it. So you get presenters now who have got much less personality and much less risk.
Well, they're risk averse, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Is that probably nowadays I'd have been sacked within 2 months.
Well, I like to think it's because we did our homework, didn't we? We went on there knowing what we were talking about. And
there was that.
We challenged people in a friendly but firm way,
John, I remember presenting with you, which would never happen today. You and I presenting GMTV in the morning, right? And you would never have two men now. Don't ask me why. You could have two women doing it, but you would never have two men. And this man, to me, he was always the governor. It wouldn't matter if I was given, it was my role. I was beside him. That was John Stapleton. I said to him, you're the boss. You do what you do. He was the senior guy. Still respect him and look up to him. What do you think of what you see on TV today?
Well, I'm not as critical as you, perhaps. I think I'm more. I think there's still some damn good programmes on TV, some very good documentaries, and I think most people in the news area do the level best they can and are very competent. So I hate to sit in judgment, but I do watch the news like you, I'm sure, in a very meticulous way, thinking, why are they saying that? Why have they put that there? Why have they put this here? But, we're out of it. It's over. For me, it's over. So there's no point in sitting there harping about what's going on now.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and we have some breaking exclusive news for you now, as hundreds of small boat migrants have crossed the Channel illegally on the new Home Secretary's first full day in office. That's Shabana Mahmood. She's been given a sobering taste of the huge task she faces, as hundreds of small boat migrants are crossing the Channel.
Yes, on her first full day in office since taking the role from Yvette Cooper, Border Force has declared a red day in the English Channel, with large numbers of illegal crossings expected. GB News sources estimate the number of migrants expected to make it to UK waters today is likely to be more than 600.
Well, let's get reaction now from the former Labour advisor Matthew Laza and the former Conservative advisor Jennifer Powers. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Matthew, let's start with you. This is going to be a significant task for Shabana Mahmood, and really it's one of the issues where Keir Starmer's premiership will stand or fall.
Absolutely, and that's why he's appointed Shabana Mahmood, because she was seen as being effective in the justice portfolio, having spoken up to the what you might call the sort of blob is what is nastily called, but you know, the sort of the existing forces of conservatism, as Tony Blair would have called them, within the department. Remember when she said to the Sentencing Council, which is the body that sets sentences for the justice system, they were trying to introduce what some people thought were woke criteria, so that if you were in a minority, you got a shorter sentence. She said, I'm not having any of that, and stopped it. So she's seen as being tough. And therefore, yes, this is the level of small boats coming, as we've seen with these figures this morning, is a real challenge. But one Red Wall voice in the Labour Party said to me yesterday, thank goodness for Shabana, she'll get a grip. In fact, she'll have the Navy in the Channel. I'm not sure she'll quite do that, but there's, I think, a real feeling in the Labour Party that if anybody, and it remains a big if, anybody can do this, she's the one.
But it really does remain a big if, doesn't it, Jennifer? I mean, Shabana Mahmood is definitely an effective operator, but it seems as though she has quite a lot of the British establishment sort of working against her. If Priti Patel couldn't do anything about this, if you know, the whole of the Conservative government in 14 years couldn't do anything about this, Shabana Mahmood might be to the right of Yvette Cooper, but can she really do anything?
Yeah, I think that's the real question here. Some may say the reshuffle is about Angela Rayner and her departure, which is right, but it's also about Shabana Mahmood and the desire by Morgan Sweeney and Keir Starmer to move her from Justice to the Home Office to take on this incredibly important brief. I think there's a feeling that she is more in tune with the feelings of the nation, the public, with regard to their concern for illegal immigration in the small boats. However, beyond her instincts and her rhetoric, and maybe she can communicate that empathy a bit better than Yvette Cooper could. But can she actually make a difference? You know, unless and until Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer are willing to actually go up against and change our constitutional settlement and international conventions and the Human Rights Act, unless they're willing to change their policy, does bringing in a new person really make a difference?
Yeah, Matthew, we've got a comment here on gbnews.com/your say from Bobby saying that at the moment this is rearranging the deck chairs.
I was just about to use that phrase.
Bobby's ahead of the curve here.
Did you mention the Titanic? Normally people, that sentence normally ends with on the Titanic.
We should ban that analogy.
This is a serious problem, is it not, for any Labour minister coming into this new power, regardless, as Jennifer says, the rhetoric they've taken or how more hardline they perhaps may be privately. Keir Starmer is going to have to permit and allow ministers to take much stronger political moves than currently he'd been running in his first year.
Absolutely. As you say, look, it can't just be a more empathetic version of Yvette Cooper. I mean, I think Yvette Cooper's done some sensible things and has started to actually do the right thing, but sometimes her heart didn't necessarily seem to be in it in terms of, in terms of taking what you might call a more rightward or more robust approach. But as you say, she's going to need, to use another stock phrase, the tools to do the job. Now, what remains to be seen is what tools will Keir Starmer and, as you say, the Attorney General, who likes to look at those international treaties, to the consternation of some Labour MPs, allow her to have. Will we have, rather than the hotels or the houses in multiple occupation, will we be moving to I never quite know what the right phrase is. It's effectively dormitory-style accommodation in disused government buildings, which is one option. So it looks tough. So I think the honest answer is I think Keir Starmer and Morgan McSweeney, as Chief of Staff, know that if they don't give her some tools, give Shabana Mahmood tools to get tougher, then the public won't think a change has made any difference.
Well, actually, I want to talk to you a little bit, both of you really, about that relationship that you mentioned there between Keir Starmer and his own MPs. The Prime Minister, to me, is looking pretty weak. He's done 2 major U-turns in his first year. He backed Angela Rayner until the moment that she had to go. He's not looking like a particularly strong man. His MPs are prepared to rebel against him. What is the relationship looking like between Keir Starmer and his backbench MPs? And what could that mean for the election of the deputy leader of the Labour Party?
Well, I think on the deputy leader, they're desperately hoping that there won't be an election, that you have to have 80 MPs out of 420% to nominate. And I think there's a feeling that they might just about be able to get away with Shabana Mahmood is the name being talked about, getting, piling on so many nominations, nobody else can get in the crowd.
There'll be left-wing MPs who won't.
There'll be, yeah, absolutely, whether there's enough of them who can coalesce around one person. But if they get away with that, forgive me my Saturday throat, on the issue of the sort of credibility of the Prime Minister, I think the one of the U-turns you mentioned was on welfare, which is perhaps the most damaging of all. When the welfare reforms collapsed, which are going to free up money to do things to achieve the Labour government's aims, the backbenchers rebelled, they collapsed. So what happened yesterday, we maybe were looking at Shabana and David Lammy, is that Pat McFadden, who is quite a quiet figure, but is, as you know, is really is a real fixer and is really has the Prime Minister's ear, has been moved into work and pensions, given skills. I think, in terms of what I said earlier about can't just be moving the deck chairs on the Titanic. It has to be giving new. If you're going to have new people, you've got to give them, new ways of doing it. So give them the tools to do the job.
I think that's right. I think that's one to watch at Department of Work and Pensions. Does this mean the government is actually going to have another go at welfare reform? Yeah. Are they going to use the skills brief to tell a story about supporting people to get back in the market whilst changing the rules around benefits for out-of-work claimants? I mean, this is where Keir Starmer the Prime Minister is going to rise above his comfort zone of process and proceduralism.
Absolutely.
And actually face the cold, hard reality of the trade-offs that public policy presents. Is he willing to have a go with his MPs who, as you say, have rebelled and who don't necessarily have that loyalty and that that strong relationship that he so desperately needs if he's going to get these difficult changes through.
OK, Jennifer, Matthew, thank you very much for your time this morning. We can get you some live pictures now of Nigel Farage arriving at his second day of the Reform UK conference, taken just moments ago, as he was arriving at the Birmingham NEC for the second day of that conference. We'll get those pictures back up in a second. We gave you a little sneak peek of the man walking there. Quickly went away. It will be returning shortly. So that's going to be a significant day. We'll be speaking to Sarah Pochin later as well, Olivia.
Yes, and we're now going to speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope, who's been up and down Birmingham, London, all over the place. Chris, obviously this is a huge day for the Prime Minister. Is this the reset that the Prime Minister needs, or is this the sign of a desperate man in crisis? Can Keir Starmer take hold of his government again, seize back control, if you like?
Yeah, well, let's take a step back on what happened yesterday, I think, Liv. I mean, you've got this government, it is well behind in the polls, but it is still way ahead in the House of Commons. They have a majority of well over 160. The polls are a difficult story altogether. 35% lead most recently for Reform UK against 20 points for Labour, 17 points for the Conservatives. No question, this is a response to that. This is a reshuffling of people in the team. Only 3 people left the top table in the Cabinet yesterday. Lucy Powell, Leader of the House of Commons, Ian Murray, the Scottish Secretary, and of course Angela Rayner. Otherwise, everyone simply moved around the table and got a new job. So clearly Sir Keir Starmer believes that the team he has there is the best team to lead the country, but maybe they weren't all in the best roles they could have been in. That's why you're seeing Shabana Mahmood go into the Home Office, for example. She's a tough nut, well regarded, I think, as someone who can take tough choices, and boy, do they need to. We've got 600 people arriving already by small boats across the southern border. A wake-up call, an alarm clock, frankly, for the urgency of dealing with the small boat crisis, which I think could easily bring down this government, or at least mean towards the election at some point. I mean, don't mean bringing it down before the election, but could be the reason why this government doesn't win the second term, which Sir Keir Starmer's talked about. I'm here in Downing Street waiting for the start of a junior ministerial reshuffle. The new chief whip, Jonathan Reynolds, he is in the building behind me. I imagine looking at a large whiteboard, working out who to move where. I'll be looking particularly at the Home Office. Will that Home Office be cleared out from the old ministers who frankly failed to do enough to tackle the small boats crisis? A new team in there could be a good thing. We'll wait and see whether that therefore we'll see people like Dame Diana Johnson, will she be there at the end of the day, Angela Eagle and others. See how that one plays out. I think it is definitely a reform-facing reshuffle. You're watching images there of Nigel Farage arriving at the Reform UK conference, and in fact, I should have been there for the past 2 days, but I was called to London for this major reshuffle of the government's top team. It is looking at reform, trying to find ways to tackle the criticism. We're looking now, of course, at the Home Office. I'm also particularly interested in the appointment of Pat McFadden. He's an old Whitehall bruiser. He's now the Work and Pensions Secretary, and also with a bit of skills taken over from the Education Department. That's really important. There's a target there of taking some of those 6 million people on benefits back into work is a challenge, frankly, which we would all welcome, and it was dodged by the government most recently, as in the summer, when those £5 billion worth of cuts, about a scratch on the overall bill, didn't go through from the backbench MPs. So it looks to me like a reform-facing response to their very large poll lead.
And Chris, we're just breaking this news that some 600 small boat migrants expected to arrive in Britain today. Our Home and Security Editor Mark White saying that over 450 have arrived already after 11 straight days of no crossings. It's Shabana Mahmood's first full day in the Home Office. It's a big challenge for her already.
Well, absolutely, as I say, it's an alarm clock, a wake-up call for anyone who thought this problem was going away. I mean, frankly, Sir Keir Starmer in the building behind me can find a new Home Secretary, but the problem it remains. How can this government deal with this? The one-in, one-out system isn't working at all yet. There is no actual reason not to come here, no threat to be removed to a third country like Rwanda, like the Tories plan to do, although there's arguments that wouldn't have succeeded because of issues with the law. You've got, of course, Nigel Farage saying that he would pull the UK out of the European Convention on Human Rights and stop those boats coming overnight by removing them, frankly. We've got reports of new centres set up to house asylum seekers away from hotels and away from communities. A lot needs to be done, and there's a lot of hope now riding on Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary.
Well, thank you very much, Christopher Hope. Still to come, a special personal tribute to the Duchess of Kent and the latest on that funicular crash in Lisbon.
But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Good morning. The headlines from the GB newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer is expected to make further changes to government on top of yesterday's major cabinet reshuffle following Angela Rayner's resignation. It's the second and final day of Reform UK's conference. Party leader Nigel Farage is accusing the government of being deep in crisis. And breaking exclusive news in the last half an hour, GB News sources estimate more than 500 migrants are expected to cross the English Channel today, following 11 straight days of no crossings due to bad weather. And around 100 firefighters are tackling a blaze at the BBC's former headquarters in West London. Those are the headlines for now. More at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Bethany. After the break, we'll get all the latest on the reshuffle and also more small boat migrants crossing the channel. And we'll be getting the latest on that sad news in Lisbon from the funicular crash.
And we'll also be speaking to the former personal secretary of the Duchess of Kent, who just happens to be my aunt. So we're very much looking forward to that. Please stay with us.
Morning. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The weekend promises a mixed picture with wet and windy weather for some tomorrow, but most of us having a good-looking day today. Generally dry and bright with some hazy sunshine. Not completely dry, 1 or 2 showers this morning over parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, but I'd say most places won't see them and stay dry and fine. Some cloud around, but hazy spells of sunshine. The breeze is picking up already in western areas, and we'll see some quite lively gusts at times over parts of Wales, the north coast of Northern Ireland in particular. But the wind is coming up from the south, so it's bringing warm air. So in the sunny spells, temperatures getting widely over 20 Celsius, so quite warm for this time of year. Through this evening, most of us will stay fine. That breeze will continue to strengthen. So a breezy old evening across Scotland. I think any showers we see here through the day, though, they should be fading out by this evening. So looking dry and fine if you're heading out, as it is for most of Northern Ireland. But by this evening, just a threat of some showery rain creeping into the far west. For most of England and Wales, dry and fine this evening. Again, quite a bit of cloud and a fairly brisk wind. But those temperatures still up at 20 degrees into this evening. Now, temperatures will fall away overnight, but not too far. It's going to be quite a warm night as that breeze continues to waft mild and increasingly humid air our way, and increasing amounts of cloud out west with some showery rain pushing into Northern Ireland, maybe Pembrokeshire and Cornwall by the time we get to first thing tomorrow morning. But temperatures holding up in the mid-teens, high teens in some places, so really quite a warm start, quite a humid day. Much of eastern Scotland, central and eastern England will have a dry Sunday morning, but further west, outbreaks of rain will push into western England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and eventually into much of western and then central Scotland. Much of eastern England will stay dry until quite late on. Will be quite a blustery day. Those winds up a notch. Still quite mild air in place though, so feeling quite warm and quite humid tomorrow.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Back to Saturday Morning Live. Now, the Duchess of Kent, Catherine, has passed away peacefully in her home at the age of 92.
Yes, the Prince and Princess of Wales have paid tribute by praising her for working tirelessly to help others and described her as a much-missed member of the family.
Now, the King, Queen and the rest of the royal family are in mourning, with Union flags lowered to a half-mast at royal residences around the country.
Well, joining us now is my aunt, the former personal secretary to the Duchess of Kent, Virginia Utley. I mean, it's amazing to have you here. Thank you so much for doing it. And you worked for the Duchess of Kent for 10 years as her personal secretary. You were there in Kensington Palace with her. I remember coming to Kensington Palace after school.
Did.
What was she like to work for?
She was very nice to work for. I worked for her from 2000 to 2010. By that stage, she had pretty well given up, well, she had given up her royal title. She wasn't known as Her Royal Highness.
She was very modest, wasn't she? She never wanted to be called HRH, never wanted, didn't like you calling her
really
ma'am.
like me calling her ma'am, but I had to, because that's what everyone did call her.
the Duchess of Kent, Catherine.
Yes. She didn't really like rules very much, or protocol. Her office was really just me, and it was run very differently. Subsequently, I worked for the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, and that was run in a very different sort of way.
That sort of military precision,
exactly.
Wasn't it? Yeah, whereas I remember coming to Kensington Palace after school and her playing with me, the Duchess of Kent playing with me in the garden. She loved children,
yes, she did. She had a great natural affinity with children. I'd asked her if I could bring you in because I was meant to be looking after you on that day, and I said she'll come with her colouring books and sit quietly in the office, but she whisked you out into the garden.
I have such happy memories of that.
I remember you both coming back, giggling away and chatting. I thought, oh, that's all gone very well.
I have to say, I wish my aunt was a royal secretary. This sounds like a wonderful
It was an amazing
brilliant.
child.
And Virginia, obviously, there are so many happy memories to reflect on, but in this process now of mourning, there will also be processes to go through, and her upcoming funeral is expected to break with precedent, isn't it?
Yes. I would imagine it will be in Westminster Cathedral. She was received into the Catholic Church in 1994, and that seems the most likely place, but she did do things her own way, so who knows.
Well, she absolutely didn't. I mean, there's never been a royal.
No, it'll be the first one in modern history.
I mean, that's pretty incredible, isn't it? And for a woman who just broke with tradition in so many ways. I want to talk to you as well, because I remember her setting up a music charity. Music was one of her great loves. Can you tell us about that?
Future Talent, it was called, and it was to pay for musical instruments to come into primary schools so that children from low-income backgrounds could learn music, learn instruments, and she worked incredibly hard at that. And that's really a great legacy, because it's still going very strong.
And also, speaking about her Catholic faith, you also would have been there supporting her. She went to Lourdes as part of those pilgrimages to support handicapped children. How important was that to her?
She loved doing that. She worked really hard. I've heard from people who go to Lourdes what an amazing way she worked. And she went year after year.
And it's very, very hard work.
Very
You've
hard
just been
work.
to Lourdes as well. Catholicism was something you two had in common.
Yes,
Pushing wheelchairs. It's not the sort of shaking hands work that you sometimes see people doing. It's hard work.
She really did work hard at that and was a great success and very much loved by everyone there.
She had a great sense of humour as well, didn't she? When I was asking you to do this, you told me a fantastic story about when she was teaching in Hull.
That's right. She used to go to Hull every week when I was working for her to teach in a primary school, but she went incognito.
She called herself Mrs. Kent.
Yes, Mrs. Kent. She didn't want to be known who she was. Didn't want anyone to know who she was. One little boy, pupil, said to her one day, "Miss, are you royal?" And she said, "Why do you ask that?" "Well, your jumper smells of Buckingham Palace."
Amazing. And she was a great mimic, wasn't she?
She always broke into Yorkshire accent when she came back. She usually spoke for about a day in Yorkshire accent after she'd been.
What's the inspiration for her to go and sort of go anonymously among her people, as it were?
She loved being a normal person, she used to say. Just quietly.
And she just got the train down there.
She got the train without anyone with her.
Sunglasses on? Did she have sunglasses?
Yeah, sometimes. Yes. She was. People didn't recognise her on the station, I don't think, or maybe they did. But anyway, she succeeded in doing that week after week without any interference.
Incredible. I mean, what a woman. And she was such a beauty in her day as well. Those lovely, lovely pictures of her wedding, timeless dress.
Beautiful, wasn't it? Yeah. Absolutely lovely.
And 92 she got to, so the oldest member of the royal family after the Queen had died.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
And she didn't live in the palace itself, did she? I remember it was a
Kent
cottage
just in the grounds of the palace, just next door to the palace.
And Virginia, have you been reflecting with other people who worked with the princess over that period at all, and have you been sharing other memories with them as well?
Not yet, but I hope I will.
Absolutely. I'm sure you will, I'm sure. Oh, we've got lovely photos of her on the screen now. Of course, Wimbledon, we haven't even touched on Wimbledon. There she is with, I'm not sure if that's Venus or Serena Williams. She gave out the trophies there. There she is.
Yes.
Maybe those are some of the children who she taught in Hull, looking very, very glamorous there.
She loved them.
Oh, they're brilliant photos, really delightful.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming in for me. Virginia. A big favour to me as well.
May angels call her to her rest.
That's a lovely
Oh, lovely.
Thank you, Virginia.
So
Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Well, still to come, we'll be joined by the travel correspondent Simon Calder to reflect on that tragedy in Lisbon with 3 Britons among the dead. But first, if you are in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello. We may see a few showers over the Balearics during the course of Sunday. Meanwhile, it's looking fine in Italy. Lots of sunshine for Greece and most of Turkey too. Just a few showers inland. Most of the beaches staying dry and sunny. There will be a few showers, as I said, heading south across Mallorca, perhaps affecting Ibiza as well. And northern parts of Tunisia seeing a little bit of rain. And there's a weak weather front which may bring thick cloud and the odd spot of rain to the Algarve on Sunday. That clears away, though, by Monday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10:49 and 2 of the 3 British people killed in the Lisbon funicular crash have been named.
Yes, a couple, 36-year-old Kaylee Smith and 44-year-old William Nelson, were among the 14 people who died on Wednesday. The other British victim, a man in his 80s, has not yet been identified.
Well, travel correspondent for The Independent, Simon Calder, joins us now. Simon, thank you very much for joining us this morning. This is obviously devastating news for the families of those 3 Britons, but bigger questions also being asked to how this could have possibly happened.
Oh, there most certainly are. And of course, our thoughts go out to the families and friends of Kaylee and William, who lost their lives so tragically when they were in the middle of what should have been a dream trip. But yes, there are many, many questions to be answered. Of course, public transport, whether it is a so-called heritage element, such as this Elevador da Gloria, the Gloria funicular railway, or an ultra-modern piece of public transport, all of them are designed absolutely with safety in mind. 3 million people a year using this particular funicular railway, and with, of course, the expectation that they will be safe. And the focus will be very much on a couple of things. First of all, the maintenance of the funicular. Caris, the company which runs the public transport system in Lisbon, stresses that it had been inspected very regularly. There's a daily inspection of it. But then I think the focus will be on the fail-safe element. So if the worst happens, and bear in mind that these two lifts are on a kind of counterweight system, one going up while the other one comes down, that is going to focus on, well, what happens if the cable connecting them snaps? What is the next thing that happens? And clearly the fact that the vehicle, the tram in the tragedy, was able to achieve such fast acceleration and crash with such devastating consequences, with the loss of 14 lives and many people injured. Clearly there needs to be a focus on that. And of course, events like this make people worried. They think, well, is Portugal dangerous? Is its wonderful heritage system, such as the tram that trundles through the city centre, is that dangerous? And I just urge people not to conclude that they are in danger from events such as this. Of course, everybody will be doing their utmost to make sure that it doesn't happen again and that lessons are learned from this tragedy.
Simon Calder, thank you very much for joining us this morning to provide your insight to the very sad news indeed. Well, Olivia, we've got a lot more to come on Saturday Morning Live. We're going back to Britain for this coverage to the Reform UK conference and also further reaction to Sir Keir Starmer's reshuffle. And as we were speaking to Matthew Larser and Jennifer Powers during the paper review panel just a moment ago, this government does very much feel like it's on the brink after 1 year already.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, this is my bread and butter. I could talk about politics all day. It is insane how Keir Starmer won that enormous majority just last year, only 3 seats short of that famous victory that Tony Blair won in 1997, and yet the government appears to be crumbling around him. Is this the reset that the Prime Minister is hoping for, or does it just sort of smell of desperation? Is this Nigel Farage's moment?
Well, Olivia, he said he was starting phase 2 and immediately everyone's out and new people are in. It does feel a little bit like phase 2 barely happened.
I know,
and phase
I
3
saw a
has
funny
begun.
tweet of someone saying, feel for those of us who were on holiday this week and missed all of phase 2 of this government.
But we'll also be getting all the latest on small boats crossing. Shabana Mahmood, just in her first full day in office as Home Secretary. She's got to have 600 crossings today after 11 straight days of none at all. So plenty to come here, Olivia.
Plenty to come, so please don't go anywhere and do send in your views.
See you in a moment.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's going to be a dry start to the weekend for many of us, but those winds are going to be increasing and perhaps feeling a little bit warmer as we go towards Sunday too. Low pressure waiting in the wings out towards the west of the UK, but it's that squeeze in the isobars across the country. That's why we'll see those winds increasing as we go into Sunday. But for most of us on Saturday, there'll be plenty of sunshine on offer. Perhaps a bit of showery rain across parts of Northern Ireland, northern and western parts of Scotland too. But for much of England and Wales, a very pleasant start to the weekend, albeit increasingly windy as we head through the afternoon. Feeling pleasantly warm in that sunshine where you do catch it. Highs of 22, 23, perhaps 24 degrees across the southeast. They're feeling a little fresher across the north where it's staying that little bit cloudier. As we then look ahead to Saturday evening, generally staying dry for most places as we go through the evening period. Some late sunshine on offer, some late hazy sunshine on offer for parts of Scotland. Generally a little cloudier across parts of Northern Ireland. Some outbreaks of showery rain are possible. But for much of England and Wales, it's a similar picture to Scotland. Plenty of late hazy sunshine on offer away from the very far southwest of England where we start to see some cloud building as we go through Saturday evening. Generally staying dry for much of England and Wales through Saturday night and into the early hours of Sunday morning. But for Northern Ireland and Scotland, we start to see some outbreaks of showery rain pushing in from the west, and this making its way into the far southwest of England too. Those winds continue to increase overnight, and that will mean those temperatures stay really quite mild for most of us, perhaps even into the mid, maybe even locally high teens for some. So quite a muggy night to come and quite a mild start to the day on Sunday. Again, in much of England and Wales seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the morning. Again, some hazy sunshine on offer, but further west, plenty of outbreaks of showery, heavy rain pushing their way northwards as we go through the afternoon. It's going to feel quite a bit milder than it's felt recently and quite humid in places, with highs of 26 or perhaps even 27 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel. Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
It's 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 6th of September, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
Minister was already planning a reshuffle. I'll be honest, he wanted to do it on a slightly slower time frame. When it became clear that Angela was going to leave government, the Prime Minister took decisive action and decided to bring that reshuffle forward and just get the job done on Friday.
Yes, as the country wakes up to a new Labour front bench, the new Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, quite the mouthful, Darren Jones, spoke to GB News earlier.
Well, the focus now turns to those in new roles. What will Shabana Mahmood's policy be to stop the small boats? That's as 600 migrants are set to make it to Britain today. Our political editor, Christopher Hope, is in Downing Street.
That's right, an alarm clock, a wake-up call there for the new Home Secretary as hundreds more small boat migrants across the Channel today are welcome to that new job. Well, I'm here in Downing Street. We'll be getting the appointment of the new ministers in the junior levels of the government within the hour, the first batch to be announced. Stay tuned.
Smart, we can be nimble, we can move. So we adjusted the programme, moved Nigel forward, and once again we stole a march on the lumbering dinosaurs of the deep socialist Labour government.
It's the second day of the Reform UK conference in Birmingham as Richard Tice reflects on yesterday's busy first day. Our deputy political editor Tom Harwood is out and about at conference.
That's right, I'm on the conference floor here at Reform's largest ever and most professional conference. But is this a party that is really on the verge of gaining government?
Great to see one of those Farage football shirts in the background.
Oh
there.
yes, big Farage football shirts.
In other news today, the Duchess of Kent, who became the oldest living member of the royal family following Queen Elizabeth II's death, she's passed away at the age of 92.
And dozens of firefighters are currently battling a blaze at the old BBC television centre in London's White City. Around 100 firefighters and 15 engines had been called to the 9-storey building. We'll be keeping an eye on developments.
The biggest stories, the boldest opinions and the liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Charlie Peters.
And I'm Olivia Utley. And your weekend starts here. Well, that reform conference that's really getting underway, isn't it? We had Farage yesterday speaking 3 hours early. It does feel as though they at least believe that they are going to be the next party of government.
Yep, 2027, that's when they are saying the next election is going to be. Do you buy that? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. And what do you make of accusations that the reshuffle yesterday drowned out the reform conference? Do you think it was a smart move from Labour to almost sort of cover Angela Rayner's resignation with all those moves as well?
I mean, I was quite impressed actually with the way that Reform kind of seized the moment there. You know, they could have been upset and annoyed that their conference had been overshadowed by Rayner, but Farage did his speech 3 hours early, sort of got in there, made themselves look like the alternative to Labour. And it's really interesting to see some of those big businesses. This is sponsored by Heathrow Airport, the Reform Party conference. Just a year ago, I was there, and it was a bit of a weird little fringe event, not very many people there. Now it feels like almost the main event of party conference season.
Yeah, Richard Tice telling us they were nimble, as you said. They went ahead with Farage's speech by a few hours, and if that wasn't enough to attract attention, they also had Andrea Jenkins doing a bit of singing in that sequined suit on stage. Well, there's a lot to get into there, and before we do that, let's go and speak with Bethany Elsey, who has all your latest news headlines.
Thank you both. Good morning. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB Newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer has conducted a major cabinet reshuffle in an effort to restore order after Angela Rayner resigned as Deputy Prime Minister over her tax affairs. David Lammy is her replacement. He's also been appointed Justice Secretary. A dozen other ministers have been moved around, including Shabana Mahmood being promoted to Home Secretary. And Yvette Cooper has joined the Foreign Office. Further changes will be made to the government today with a shake-up of junior ministers. Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, told GB News this was all part of the plan.
The Prime Minister was already planning a reshuffle. I'll be honest, he wanted to do it on a slightly slower time frame. When it became clear that Angela was going to leave government, the Prime Minister took decisive action and decided to bring that reshuffle forward and just get the job done on Friday.
GB News sources estimate more than 500 migrants are expected to cross the English Channel today. It follows 11 straight days of no crossings due to bad weather. Late last night, winds eased off, allowing people smugglers to push off multiple migrant rafts from a huge area of coastline near Dunkirk. Provisional figures take the number of migrants who've arrived in the UK illegally this year to more than 29,500. It's the second and final day of Reform UK's party conference. Yesterday, leader Nigel Farage accused the government of being deep in crisis and told supporters to prepare for an early election in just 2 years. He's due to speak later on at the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham following an address by his deputy, Richard Tice. Around 100 firefighters are tackling a blaze at the BBC's former headquarters in West London. 15 fire engines have also been called to the 9-storey building on Wood Lane in White City. Authorities say the fire is currently affecting the top floors of the building, including a restaurant, and that an unknown number of flats have also been impacted. Nearby buildings have been evacuated as a precaution, and Wood Lane is currently closed to traffic. 2 of the 3 British people killed in a Lisbon funicular crash have been named. A couple, 36-year-old Kaylee Smith and 44-year-old William Nelson, were among the 16 people who died on Wednesday. The other British victim, a man in his 80s, has not yet been identified. More than 20 people were injured. 5 of them are in a critical condition when the tourist attraction derailed and crashed into a building. A surfer has died after being attacked by a shark in a gruesome attack off the coast of Sydney's popular northern beaches. The 57-year-old man suffered critical injuries, including losing a number of limbs after joining friends in the water off Longreef Beach. It's the first deadly shark attack in the city for more than 3.5 years, prompting the closure of several beaches. Those are the headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, thank you, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and me, Olivia Utley.
Now, the country is waking up to a new Labour front bench and more reshuffling is expected throughout today.
A major government reshuffle yesterday in light of Angela Rayner's resignation saw David Lammy become Deputy Prime Minister, Yvette Cooper move from the Home Office to the Foreign Office and Shabana Mahmood promoted to Home Secretary.
Now, the focus will now turn to those in new roles. What will Shabana Mahmood's policy be to stop the small boats? That's as 600 migrants are set to make it across the Channel today. Well, joining us now is GB News political editor Christopher Hope. Chris, thank you very much for joining us from Downing Street, and a lot of new challenges, old challenges for this government to get a grip with, but some new names in place to tackle them. What sort of changes can we expect in policy?
Yeah, great question. I think on the benefits side, we've got Pat McFadden in charge now of the Work and Pensions Department. That means the government, to me, will go ahead with benefit cuts. They backed away from £5 billion worth of cuts back in the summer. Now I expect them to go further this autumn. He's an old Whitehall bruiser. He won't be faced down or be cowed by the left if he tries to do that. That, of course, was the problem for the government back in the summer. But the old problems remain, don't they, Charlie, as we well know. Small boat arrivals already looking towards 450 so far today, as Mark White's reporting. Hundreds of people crossing the first big crossing for weeks, almost a welcome, I think, for those criminal gangs to Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary. Taking a step back, what does this reshuffle mean? Well, to me, it is taking on the threat of Reform UK. They're putting new people into the roles to try and deal with the concerns of Reform UK voters who are leaking away to the Labour Party on benefits and on immigration. There's a question I put earlier to Darren Jones, he of course being the chief enforcer now for the Prime Minister. And here's what Darren Jones told me for GB News.
Well, as the Prime Minister said on Monday, this is the second chapter of the Labour government. The first chapter, the first year, being a new government coming in, getting a grip with the crises, putting out the fires that we'd inherited from the Conservatives. And now we're on to chapter 2, where we get to really start to drive delivery of the promises of change that we made to the public at the last election.
Come off it. It's a panicked reshuffle in response to Angela Rayner's resignation, right? Be honest with us.
I'm being honest with you, it's not, because the Prime Minister was already planning a reshuffle. I'll be honest, he wanted to do it on a slightly slower time frame, but we announced the number 10 appointments on Monday, my new job as Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. When it became clear that Angela was going to leave government, the Prime Minister took decisive action and decided to bring that reshuffle forward and just get the job done on Friday.
So 3 people have left the cabinet table, the rest have been moved around, shuffled about. Is it really about tackling Nigel Farage and Reform UK's poll lead?
No, this is about making sure that we've got brilliant colleagues in brilliant jobs, making sure that the government machine is really driving delivery of the public's priorities.
So they're all in the wrong jobs before, were they?
No, that's not what I said.
It is what you said.
Reshuffles are reshuffles. You move people around, you make sure as your agenda's developing, you bring people into different jobs, and that's normal in government. And we've got a brilliant team now that's going to be getting on with delivering on the public's priorities.
Your role in the Cabinet Office is as a Chancellor for the Duchess of Lancaster now, and of course this new role of Chief Secretary. You have to deliver the PM's agenda. What is that agenda? Can you just describe it? Because it's not clear to many people what is Starmerism, if it's anything at all.
Well, look, the Prime Minister's priorities are the public's priorities. So it's about tackling the cost of living crisis and making people get better wages at work. It's about getting public services back on their feet with a predominant focus on the NHS. And it's about making sure that people feel safe and confident about their local communities. And that includes things like the borders and the small boats crisis. So those are the obvious priorities that the public have. They are the government's priorities. And my job as Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister in Downing Street, as well as my job in the Cabinet Office, is about helping him to make sure that we're firing on all cylinders across government to make sure we can deliver those things for the public.
And there we have it. I wanted to ask that question about what on earth is the point of all this, because Sir John Curtis, who's the polling guru, he said this morning already that there's a gaping hole in the government. It lacks a clear message. Now, the question that we should be hearing more from Darren Jones is, what is the point of this Labour government? Who is it trying to help? How will it get there? Because currently there appears to be a problem. Sir John Curtis said earlier, the crucial thing with reshuffling a pack like this is a big gaping hole in the message. What is it for? What kind of country is it trying to create? More flesh on those bones will be put, I'm sure, by Sir Keir Starmer when he speaks to members of the party at the party conference. And I should say we'll be hearing a lot more from the government today. We're now expecting the first ministerial appointments to be made below the cabinet level within the hour, and we'll bring the news of those changes to you as soon as we get it.
Well, thank you very much, Chris Hope, and we look forward to hearing about those new ministerial appointments. But someone looking to fill that gaping hole that Keir Starmer has apparently left is Nigel Farage, who's been rallying the troops at Reform's UK party conference in Birmingham, capitalising on what he calls the big rift engulfing the Labour Party.
Now, the Reform UK leader told members his party must be ready for an early general election as he took to the stage 3 hours earlier than planned, capitalising on that sudden Angela Rayner resignation.
Meanwhile, the party's newly announced head of policy, Zia Youssef, said Britain's people's rights would reign supreme under a Reform government.
Well, we'll be hearing from the MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pochin, later in the show, but we can hear straight away from our deputy political editor, Tom Howard, who's in Birmingham for us. Tom, Reform figures are conceding that reshuffle and resignation slightly overshadowed the conference yesterday. What will they be saying today to get eyes and ears back on to their party?
Yeah, I think that's undoubtable. I mean, you could see it from the hastily rearranged schedule that the Reform Party was concerned about the news agenda slipping away from them. Sometimes these exogenous factors just happen and things slip away. Not one party can control the news agenda. I mean, we've seen it with the Labour Party as well. Sometimes they want to talk about one thing and the news knocks it completely out of the way. Reform is hoping today, apologies for the announcement over the air, but you might want to turn down the noise a bit. It's very hard to hear it here at the moment with this incredible. Oh goodness me! Wow, this is not good for the heart of it. Wow, we're being told. Honestly, I can't hear myself talk at the moment. This is extraordinary. That was perhaps the loudest overhead announcement I have heard in my life. But it was telling the assembled delegates here that Nigel Farage is going to be on the main stage in just a moment. I hope that didn't break your speakers or indeed your earpieces. But that was quite something. But yes, I suppose one of the ways in which the Reform Party will be trying to get back ahead of the news agenda is by what's going to go ahead in the main hall with Nigel Farage speaking. I can see quite a few delegates heading their way to the main hall now. But we're standing here in the sort of regional section. They call it the Reform UK Village here, where you can see a stand for every single region of the country. And I wondered if I could perhaps dive in amongst the delegates and grab a word with some of the people that are at these various booths. I wonder, excuse me, sir, sorry to interrupt. You're at which region are we at here? We're at Yorkshire and the Humber. Now, I wanted to ask, are you ready for an election in 2027?
Possibly. There's a lot of work that needs to go in yet. We're walking in a minute. We need to run. So I think we need a bit more time. But if we keep going the way we are, we might be. Yeah, definitely.
Are you seeing a greater sense of professionalisation in the party?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think this conference displays that. The networking we're doing here, the conversations we're having, is setting up for this party to go out of the gates, fully set up to win any election we're challenged on.
Gents, thanks so much. Shall we just move on to sort of one more? Let's talk to Reform Scotland for a second and see if I'm so sorry. Can I interrupt your conversation for a second and just ask, what's the state of the party in Scotland?
It's going very well. We have 11,000 members, 17 councillors, and now, of course, an MSP as of last week. So going great guns.
And of course, elections next year. How are you going to do?
We're going to do very well, I'm sure. We're going to give a lot of people a real shock. They're going to see Reform MSP MSPs elected right across Scotland, and we will be the opposition, if not the government.
Wow, that is bold stuff. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Well, just a flavour of the nations and regions here at the Reform UK Village. So much going on at this conference, much more to come.
Well, thank you very much, Tom Harwood, and GB News will be covering the other party conferences this year, so stay tuned for our coverage throughout September and October. Joining us now is journalist and parliamentary sketch writer Quentin Letts. Now, Quentin, I've read your sketch in the Mail today. You call Angela Rayner a woman of gluttonous appetite with little between the ears. You might think that Keir Starmer would be quite pleased to get rid of a woman like that, but it's not quite as simple as that, is it? Could he be heading for a fight within his own party?
Well, the thing about Rayner is she had tremendous charisma, energy, and she had a distinct character. And arguably, there are very little of that elsewhere in the Starmer cabinet. So I think that is the problem for Sir Keir. And the one woman or the one person, the one minister he had who was in some ways relatable, exciting, and unpredictable, and seemed to talk normal language, has been vaporised. So that is the problem for them, is that they are undoubtedly, they're a bunch of lawyers, they're a bunch of technocrats, but you sometimes need a bit more than that in politics. And yesterday at the Reform Conference, there was perhaps not enough of that, but there was plenty of excitement and energy. So that is the problem for Starmer, is that he's just lost the one woman who actually could have fitted in, perhaps, to the Reform Party.
And Quintin, you spoke about in your column how she stands out among so many joyless colleagues and how that allows her to connect with ordinary people. But that resignation yesterday, overshadowed, I think, by that reshuffle, has put her out of touch with the public, possibly and probably properly for the first time because of these concerns about her tax affairs. Could this now sort of draw a line under Angela Rayner's future political career?
Yes, well, of course, what I was just talking about was the perception of Mrs. Rayner that the public had. Well, we now discover that secretly, perhaps she wasn't quite as blunt a creature, and that she was perhaps driven a bit more by internal forces of greed and desire to get on, aspiration, almost conservative values, you might say. So the tax non-payment, undoubtedly, problem, and it's not easy at the moment to see how she could possibly come back. Another problem for the Starmer government, really, is that yesterday was a day of intense drama and a day when you got a sense that nobody was really in control anymore. And Sir Keir has sold himself as a rather dull creature, but as a figure of stability and stolidity. And he was going to be the force of calm government, wasn't he, after the upheavals of Conservative years? Well, that after yesterday is gone. All this might sound yippee, good news for Sir Keir, for Nigel Farage and Reform UK. But the one feeling I had yesterday at that Reform Party conference is that you can almost have a surfeit of drama. Things were almost getting crazy. What with the excitement of the Reform Conference and also the chaos in Downing Street. And at some point, perhaps at the next election, there may be an appetite among the public for a return to the sort of stability that Sir Keir was saying he was going to present. And, you know, whether or not Farage could do that, I don't know.
So Keir Starmer perhaps does have that kind of sense, that sort of stability. But, you know, the fundamentals of his new government are pretty much the same as they were. You've moved around some personnel, but while Britain is still in the ECHR, I mean, does it make a difference whether it's Yvette Cooper or Shabana Mahmood? Does it make a difference on welfare if the rebels are still not wanting any reform to welfare, whether it's Liz Kendall or Pat McFadden? What do you think? Does this represent a proper reset? Keir Starmer's definitely keen to show that it is.
It may be that the changes of personnel will bring about a change in policy. I'm not sure about that. However, the immediate result of the reshuffle is that it makes people suspect that maybe Yvette Cooper was the blockage in the works when it came to having a stronger policy on small boats removals, and maybe Liz Kendall was one of the problems when it comes to welfare reform. Again, I'm not sure about that. I think the problems actually may have come from further up the top. That's the real problem, is Sir Keir himself. But as you say, I mean, the thing about reshuffles is that they never really alter very much. The one thing that reshuffles can do is please certain colleagues. But if you look at this reshuffle, there are very few people in it who are going to come out feeling that they've done better. Shabana
OK, I think we've lost Quintin Letts there, but thank you very much for joining us this morning. And still to come, we'll be getting more reaction to what's turned out to be a seismic political weekend, and Reform UK MP Sarah Pochin will also be here later in the programme.
But next, Elon Musk could become the world's first trillionaire. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, welcome back. It's 11:25 here on Saturday Morning Live with Olivia and Charlie. And now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. It's our biggest prize package to date, worth over an incredible £104,000. Your chance to drive away with a brand new four-berth motorhome and bank a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash.
Well, here are all the details that you need to be in it to win it.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, well, let's get a reaction to all of today's top stories from our panel, the former Labour advisor Matthew Laza and the former Conservative advisor Jennifer Powers. Matthew, got to start with you because, of course, so many moving and shaking moments in the Labour Party today. Angela Rayner's exit yesterday does leave a gap in the Labour front bench because she possessed something that no one else really in the front bench has, that ability to connect really with working people.
Pizzazz as well.
Yeah, absolutely. She's quite a personality, is our Ange. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not sure we had that in the cabinet reshuffle. I don't think, I mean, you know, Emma Reynolds was brought in at DEFRA, Douglas Alexander's brought in at Scotland, are both very competent people, but they're not, they haven't perhaps got Angela's Riz. Do people still say Riz? That was a briefly was around. So I think that is a thing the Labour Party needs to be conscious of, and I don't think that the deputy leadership election will necessarily bring anybody with new in. But of course, it's like any reshuffle. When you get promoted, that leaves a gap. So it's little one roll over. And so today he'll be filling the 100-odd jobs that there are after the 20-odd in the cabinet, the 100-odd jobs there are. And the key question is, will he bring in anybody extra who was elected for the first time last year? He's brought a couple of those forward already. Some of them on their very first day in Parliament, which is pretty controversial, with the poor people who've been slaving away in opposition and didn't get a job. Will he feel to try and keep the backbenchers happy, has to do a sort of traditional balance between the old and the new. So some names to look out for: Stephen Kinnock, son of former Labour leader Neil Kinnock, who is currently the number 2 in health.
And he's actually a bit of a Blairite.
And he's a bit of, absolutely.
Blairites are on the up.
Yes, and that will be, I think, a key test. If he brings Stephen, gives Stephen a promotion, is that a sign that the Blairites are on the up? And his dad, who keeps making unhelpful comments on TV shows, may have to be quiet then. So you might get 2 for 1. He keeps saying bring a wealth tax in and all of that. But none of you are old enough to remember Neil Kinnock. I am.
Old enough to read about him.
Oh, don't.
Well, I have to say, I think the whole the sentimentality around Angela Rayner's fall from grace is it's a bit overblown. I mean, I agree, she has riz, she has charisma, and she's well known and well liked. But at the end of the day, she should be judged like anyone on her accomplishments, not on her background. And I think that this whole, bigging up of growing up in poverty, I mean, yes, she's overcome a lot and she has a complicated personal life, but at the end of the day, what did she achieve as housing secretary? And what we have is a falling number of houses being built. We still have incredibly high rents. We have all this talk about an attack on home ownership, whether that be a capital gains tax or whether that be wealth taxes. So I'm really looking to see what the new housing secretary is going to do, and I don't care so much about the personal side of things.
I'm very interested too in the people who weren't reshuffled. So Bridget Whittington's still at education. You've got Ed Miliband, who's quite unpopular, doesn't go down well with reform voters in the net zero brief. Why didn't he move some of those people?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of, I mean, because I used to work for Ed, but I was thinking, I think Ed maybe, I mean, what may emerge, of course, is that Ed was offered a different job. I wonder if the Sunday papers will tell us that Ed wouldn't move. Sometimes that comes out after a reshuffle. But I think they had to keep Ed ready because it's to keep the left happy when he's got Angela in there.
OK, Matthew, Jennifer, thank you very much for that. Lots more coming up on today, but first, we've got to get to the news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer is expected to make further changes to government on top of yesterday's major cabinet reshuffle following Angela Rayner's resignation. GB News sources estimate more than 500 migrants are expected to cross the English Channel today following 11 straight days of no crossings due to bad weather. It's the second and final day of Reform UK's conference. Party leader Nigel Farage is accusing the government of being deep in crisis. Around 100 firefighters are tackling a blaze at the BBC's former headquarters in West London. And 2 of the 3 British people killed in the Lisbon funicular crash have been named as 36-year-old Kaylee Smith and 44-year-old William Nelson. Those are the headlines for now. More at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's going to be a dry start to the weekend for many of us, but those winds are going to be increasing and perhaps feeling a little bit warmer as we go towards Sunday too. Low pressure waiting in the wings out towards the west of the UK, but it's that squeeze in the isobars across the country. That's why we'll see those winds increasing as we go into Sunday. But for most of us on Saturday, there'll be plenty of sunshine on offer. Perhaps a bit of showery rain across parts of Northern Ireland, northern and western parts of Scotland too. But for much of England and Wales, a very pleasant start to the weekend, albeit increasingly windy as we head through the afternoon. Feeling pleasantly warm in that sunshine where you do catch it. Highs of 22, 23, perhaps 24 degrees across the southeast. They're feeling a little fresher across the north where it's staying that little bit cloudier. As we then look ahead to Saturday evening, generally staying dry for most places as we go through the evening period. Some late sunshine on offer, some late hazy sunshine on offer for parts of Scotland. Generally a little cloudier across parts of Northern Ireland. Some outbreaks of showery rain are possible. But for much of England and Wales, it's a similar picture to Scotland. Plenty of late hazy sunshine on offer, away from the very far southwest of England, where we start to see some cloud building as we go through Saturday evening. Generally staying dry for much of England and Wales through Saturday night and into the early hours of Sunday morning. But for Northern Ireland and Scotland, we start to see some outbreaks of showery rain pushing in from the west, and this making its way into the far southwest of England too. Those winds continue to increase overnight, and that will mean those temperatures stay really quite mild for most of us, perhaps even into the mid, maybe even locally high teens for some. So quite a muggy night to come and quite a mild start to the day on Sunday. Again, in much of England and Wales, seeing plenty of dry and bright weather to start the morning. Again, some hazy sunshine on offer, but further west, plenty of outbreaks of showery, heavy rain pushing their way northwards as we go through the afternoon. It's going to feel quite a bit milder than it's felt recently and quite humid in places, with highs of 26 or perhaps even 27 degrees.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. It's 11:34. We'll be heading over to Birmingham for that Reform UK conference in just a moment. But Olivia, we were having a little chat with Quinton Letts a moment ago. We were talking about this reshuffle. Some old Labour faces dealing with the same old problems that this government is dealing with. But Quinton Letts suggested that maybe the problem lies at the centre of the number 10 operation. There's a bit of confusion around Darren Jones's role, isn't there? Chief Secretary and also Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. What's going on in number 10 there?
I mean, this is a huge, huge role that Darren Jones has been given. He was the Chief Secretary to the Treasury under Rachel Reeves in number 11. He's now gone over to number 10, where he's going to be the Chief Economic Secretary to the Prime Minister. One would have thought that the Chief Economic Secretary to the Prime Minister would be the Chancellor of the Exchequer, but he's brought in someone else. I mean, that is a move that seriously undermines Rachel Reeves. And then to rub salt into the wound, if you like, he has now been given the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster job, very sort of British archaic name. But what it essentially means is that he is in charge of the Cabinet Office. So he'll be overseeing the kind of machinations of government. This is a really, really big job. And obviously, Rachel Reeves has the budget in a couple of months' time. She doesn't have very much wiggle room at all. And she's going to be undermined not just by Darren Jones, but by some other really senior economic figures who Keir Starmer has brought around him. Now, Keir Starmer made it clear at the very beginning of the reshuffle that Rachel Reeves would be keeping her position because he didn't want the markets to kind of wobble. But is she sort of Chancellor in all but name now?
And, Olivia, there are also wider questions to ask about the number 10 operation, because it might feel as though Sir Keir Starmer sort of moving around his chess pieces but hasn't really fixed the problems internally. There have been how many comms advisors or chief comms teams in number 10 already in just 1 year? Questions do need to be asked about how the delivery is being achieved at the head of number 10.
Well, absolutely. And I think someone like Liz Kendall might feel a little bit hard done by. She was the Work and Pensions Secretary. She has now been replaced. But was it really her fault that those welfare reforms weren't able to go through? It was Keir Starmer who said that he was going to be able to reform welfare. Then there was this huge rebellion from the Labour backbenchers, and he had to climb down at the last minute, pass this bill which said almost nothing at all. And the fundamentals of that haven't really changed. Yes, Pat McFadden is admired as a very good operator. Skills has been brought into that brief, so it's apparently not going to be so much about welfare, so much about benefits, lots more beefed up about skills. But the fundamentals have not changed, and I think the same can be said in the Home Office.
Right, well, let's go to Birmingham now and speak to the GB News political correspondent Catherine Foster, because she's joined by the Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Hellsbeat, Sarah Pochin.
Yes, good morning from Birmingham. Well, I first met Reform's first female MP back at that incredible night in May, that by-election, where she took that safe, formerly Labour seat by just 6 votes for Reform. Sarah, thank you very much for talking to us today on GB News. The last Reform conference I was at was a year and a half ago. Lee Anderson hadn't even gone over. The energy was totally different. Obviously, you've got the luxury of being in opposition, but there really feels to be a momentum and energy here. But you have only got 4 MPs.
We've only got 4 MPs, but there's no question that we are effectively the real party of opposition. You know, whatever the Conservatives come out with now, they are finished. Nadine Dorries said yesterday the Conservatives are dead. You know, I would say that every time a Reform politician, Nigel, myself, Zia, says something, then immediately the Conservatives take that rhetoric. But, you know, the fact is they've had 14 years and they've done nothing with all of that. You know, what you're seeing here at this conference is a party that is energised, a party that is providing hope for the country, that we will get this government out and that we will get the country back on track.
But of course, it's easy to say Labour promised change, and look, people, you know, are not very happy with them a year in. There's a lot of very bold pledges have been made, but yesterday what really struck me was Nigel Farage in his speech said that you would stop the boats in 14 days. Talk me through that, because that is impossible, surely.
Look, I think what Nigel is meaning there is that Reform is the only party that is saying it will leave the ECHR, it will repeal the Human Rights Bill, and with those 2 factors alone, we are then in a position to start to send all asylum seekers back to where they came from, illegal asylum seekers, illegal migrants back to where they came from. Because what we have at the moment is a whole industry of left-wing lawyers making a fortune out of the endless appeal and appeal and appeal that a legal migrant can do. And what we need to do is take the legislation away, and it is a dramatic policy. You know, it is a radical policy, extreme policy, but we have to do it. We will create a British Bill of Rights to replace the Human Rights Bill. But unless we take this radical action, then we cannot solve this problem. And the fact is that the Labour government have said very clearly they will never leave the ECHR. Kemi Badenoch, as I referred to earlier, has suddenly said, oh, they will leave the ECHR. I can tell you, Nadine Dorries said it yesterday, from within the Conservative Party, there is no will to leave the ECHR. Otherwise, they would have done it. They had 14 years to do it. It's not fit for purpose anymore. We need to redo that sort of legislation because that's what's crippling and effectively bankrupting this country.
Yeah, it's not going to happen within 14 days, though. I thought that was a strange thing to say. Nigel Farage also said yesterday that Reform are speaking with one voice. Well, they had 5 MPs last year. 2 of those have gone. You've come in. There's been the burqa row. They've got a prisons advisor who seems to be happy to have trans women in women's prisons. You've said you're happy with ID cards. And you're not really speaking with one voice. You seem to be all over the place.
Let's just unpick some of that. I mean, the first thing to say is yesterday Nigel announced that Zia Youssef is going to be our head of policy, which is excellent. But clearly, we are slowly getting policies, different areas into place. For example, last week we launched our deportation policy, and in fact, Zia himself headed that up. But you know, we are 3 to 4 years out from a general election. Yes, we'd all love one sooner than that, but the fact is that's probably what we're facing. But Reform are pulling their policies together under Zia. But you talked about, you know, the burqa row. You know, there wasn't really a burqa row. It was a great question. I stand by that question. And we are still debating public safety, women's suppression, and face coverings in society generally. Even now, I mean, I asked that question nearly 4 months ago. Zia's still with us and doing an excellent job as heading up the Doge unit. So I think, yes, of course, as a small party, we are building, we have a team that is creating the infrastructure to meet the demand for reform. But we're growing so fast, and what we need to do now is get all of these policies in place. But it's happening, and people are excited about it.
But on the deportation plan, it was an incredibly slick operation. I was there at that announcement with the big flag and the boards of people departing. But Nigel Farage very clearly said everybody, women and children. Then the following day he said, oh, no women, not at least for 5 years. And then literally half an hour later he went, well, women if they arrive without children. I mean, why had you not got yourselves together on what was going to be a very, very obvious question? What is the final policy on women and children being deported?
Well, look, the fact is as I said, we will have politicians in Reform that are in charge of certain areas. I can tell you, and sorry, I forgot to address the issue that you mentioned to do with biological males in female prisons. There is no question that Reform will never allow a biological male in a female prison.
Okay.
Biological males will not be allowed in female spaces.
So you're confident that will be Reform policy?
Absolutely. Okay. So, and what happens is, yes, we get people into that are experts in their field that will advise us, but I can tell you that is the Reform policy. When it comes to women and girls being deported, look, we know that the fact is on out of the 70, 80 people on these not small boats, we must stop calling them small boats, the majority, 99%,
tiny numbers,
are young men,
sure.
Okay? And you may get the odd woman and the odd child on that boat, and half the time I think it's just for the BBC to take a picture. But the fact is the overwhelming majority are young fighting age men. Sure. That's what we need to deal with.
Sarah Pochen, thank you very much indeed for talking to us on GB News today. Thank you. Back to you in the studio.
Catherine, some really, really interesting lines there from Sarah Pochen, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. But still to come, we'll be joined by a former Labour minister for more reaction to this seismic political weekend.
But first, if you are in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. We may see a few showers over the Balearics during the course of Sunday. Meanwhile, it's looking fine in Italy. Lots of sunshine for Greece and most of Turkey too. Just a few showers inland. Most of the beaches staying dry and sunny. There will be a few showers, as I said, heading south across Mallorca, perhaps affecting Ibiza as well, and northern parts of Tunisia seeing a little bit of rain. And there's a weak weather front which may bring thick cloud and the odd spot of rain to the Algarve on Sunday. That clears away though by Monday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, Dame Helen Mirren has said that despite being a feminist, she believes the next James Bond has to be a chap.
OK, she said that she believes it just doesn't work. And by having a woman as Bond, the project becomes something else entirely.
So we are asking the question, could Bond ever be a woman?
Well, we're joined by a former what is termed Bond girl, Jenny Hanley. And and there is, we weren't expecting you, but it's really 007 podcast contributor John Kell there as well. Jenny, you've been there, done it, got the T-shirt, been involved in it. What's your take?
I think James Bond has to be a male because he came from the imagination of Ian Fleming. If you want a female 007, don't ride on his coattails and take the fame that has come from his character, James Bond. Write your own.
Yeah, you see, that's what I tend to think. But
No, I just think that you just go 007. The problem is, right, the last Bond film, he died. James Bond died. I mean, there was a... Oh, sorry.
Great, I haven't seen that one.
Sorry, yeah. I think everybody pretty much now knows that he definitely... I mean, there was an absolutely... It wasn't even did he or didn't he, can he or can he not survive. It was 100% gone. So it's now time for a clean... The nice thing about a clean sheet, surely, John, is that you can actually go, right, so 007, let's do the 007, and then we can do different stories because the books that have been written by Ian Fleming have been well and truly milked, haven't they?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and there's going to be plenty more coverage from the Reform UK conference. And joining us now for some reaction is the former Labour Minister Shaun Woodward. Shaun, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We've just heard from Sarah Pochin being very critical of Labour's handling of the small boats crisis. You've got Shabana Mahmood now as the new Home Secretary. She's going to have to do something differently to stop this crisis.
Look, I think it's been a very interesting week in British politics, and out of a very difficult set of circumstances, the Prime Minister has reshuffled the government, and I think Shabana's move to the Home Office is going to be very, very interesting. She's clearly got a lot of work on her hands, and no one is pretending there's not a lot to do, but this was always going to be a difficult situation to turn around. I mean, the whole policy the Tories introduced of putting people into hotels, Priti Patel, of course, was the then Home Secretary who had responsibility for some of this work. She left us with a real problem. We're trying to sort it out. I think Shabana will be very strong in that department.
Some very senior Labour grandees, Jack Straw, David Blunkett, have suggested that temporarily or permanently leaving the European Court of Human Rights is the answer to this. Do you think that might be something that Labour will seriously consider under Shabana Mahmood, who's obviously a little bit more to the right than Yvette Cooper?
No, we were all cabinet ministers together, and what Jack and David are putting forward is a very important way of looking at the issue. Simply leaving the ECHR doesn't solve your problems overnight. And indeed, if you think about something like Northern Ireland and the Good Friday Agreement, it's going to be very important to, if we were to do that, incorporate that into an equivalent in our own parliament, which absorbs many of the guarantees that would be important for that. But I think the idea, as it were, of having a piece of legislation or not having a piece of legislation doesn't in itself solve your problem. We have a big problem to deal with. It's a legacy problem as well as a global problem. It's a problem faced around the world. You've seen what's happened in the United States. You've seen it happen across the whole of Europe. Yes, we have to do it, but I think Shabana is going to be very strong in that department. And
OK,
I think
Sean, obviously, you say it's a global problem and it's pointing to the issue of the United States. They've had 1,000 deportation flights since Trump came to power, and the crossings on their land border have absolutely collapsed. Meanwhile, in Britain, obviously, this is looking like a record year of small boats crossing since the crisis started in 2018. You say they can't solve this overnight, but after 14 months, plenty of nights to get a grip of this, it's only getting worse. So Shabana Mahmood will need to bring in some new policy to deal with this. Clearly, the current approach just isn't working.
Well, it's perfectly clear that we're not going to be able to deal with it overnight, and your observations are absolutely right. But you have to be realistic about where you start from and where you're trying to get to. I think it will make a difference putting Shabana into that department. But we inherited a whole bunch of insane policies from the last government. It's going to take time to turn that around. Do I think we'll do it? Yes. Do I think it can be done overnight? I don't think it can be done overnight.
You heard that interview with Sarah Pochin, the Reform MP there. I mean, Reform clearly thinks the next election is theirs for the losing, but they don't have very much policy detail. Do you think people care about that? Do you think they will care about it as we get closer to an election?
Well, we know from the polling two things. The first is that the government is unpopular. There's no news there. Governments do tend to become unpopular once they become elected. Ask Mrs. Thatcher. You know, she was very unpopular between elections and she went on to win them.
This is just 1 year after an election, though. It's quite unusual.
Let me answer your question. So when it comes to Reform, what we know is at the moment they are the repository for people being unhappy. So they are ahead in the opinion polls. But the same polls, YouGov this week is a very good example. When asked, would you actually trust Reform to be in government and run the country, Labour still leads on that. So Nigel has failed to actually convince voters that whilst he's a repository for them, for their anger, that actually would convert into believing they would be the right people to be in government. On that question, Reform is far behind Keir Starmer and the Labour Party.
OK, Sean Woodward, there's also, this is obviously a wide-ranging cabinet reshuffle, plenty more positions moving around, but still the headlines today leading on Angela Rayner's resignation. Do you think that's going to have a lasting impact on how this Labour government can engage with people? She may not always have been the most popular member of the cabinet, but she certainly had a lot of personality and connection with ordinary people.
Yeah, she had a lot of personality. And look, on a human level, I think most people in the country understand that this is a very tragic story for her personally. I think she made the right decision when she referred herself, and I think she's done the right thing in resigning. I think she's going to remain a big figure in British politics. Whether or not she ever comes back into government or takes some position again, that's for the future. But yeah, she's a considerable person, and I think that we are the better for having imperfect, considerable people in our political life.
OK, Sean, thank you very much for joining us today on Saturday Morning Live. Olivia and I will be here every week. This is the new Saturday Morning Live.
This is the new lineup for Saturdays. Please do join us. But don't go anywhere, as Dawn Neeson is up next with The Weekend. Dawn, what's coming up on the show?
Lovely couple you make as well. Just want to say that we've got a cracking show coming up for you. More on the okie dokie from hell that is the government reform, live from Reform Party in Birmingham. Why you won't be going to the pub for much longer, and why Gen Z are scared of sausages. All of that coming up at midday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's going to be a dry start to the weekend for many of us, but those winds are going to be increasing and perhaps feeling a little bit warmer as we go towards Sunday too. Low pressure waiting in the wings out towards the west of the UK, but it's that squeeze in the isobars across the country. That's why we'll see those winds increasing as we go into Sunday. But for most of us on Saturday, there'll be plenty of sunshine on offer. Perhaps a bit of showery rain across parts of Northern Ireland, northern and western parts of Scotland too. But for much of England and Wales, a very pleasant start to the weekend, albeit increasingly windy as we head through the afternoon. Feeling pleasantly warm in that sunshine where you do catch it. Highs of 22, 23, perhaps 24 degrees across the southeast. They're feeling a little fresher across the north where it's staying that little bit